Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So happy to have you guys here with me today. If you're new here, I'm Lumie. I am a polymer clay artist and illustrator. As you can probably tell from the title and thumbnail, in today's video we're going to be creating Spiffo and his restaurant from the game Project Zomboid. If you're not familiar with Project Zomboid, according to their wiki, Project Zomboid is an open-world survival horror game developed by the Indie Stone. It is set in a post-apocalyptic zombie-infested world. The player is challenged to survive for as long as possible. This game is unforgiving and a great game to play with friends. I've made so many memories playing this game. So if you've never played this game, I would highly recommend checking it out. So now that we have the introduction out of the way, let's hop straight into the design, starting with Spiffo. But before we start, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I greatly appreciate it and it helps my channel grow. So with all that being said, let's jump right into it. For Spiffo's design, I decided to mesh two different images together. Spiffo eating a burger and him wielding his homemade weapon with his little backpack. To create this, I needed a couple of different colors. First, I'll create his shape starting with the head and moving on to his body. I'll split the piece in half to mold some little legs and a chubby belly and set him into a sitting position. I'll create his arms in a slightly curved shape so he can hold onto the burger I will be making later. I make a slightly elongated ball to form his tail. With little balls of clay, I pinch the top to make little peaks to form his ears. That's all of the body pieces done, and I'll move on to making the burger. The burger is comprised of two beige balls molded into a bun shape, and a simple flattened piece of clay will make the burger patty. I also decided to add some comically large sesame seeds, which I probably should have waited till after baking to add, but I'll know better for next time. I then move on to making his small blue backpack and straps to go around his shoulders. I'll attach the ears to the head, then the head to the body, before precariously attaching the straps. I was really taking my time attaching the straps because I really didn't want to mess up and have the blue clay stain the orange clay because it would just be a huge mess for me, so I'm really glad that it all worked out. So after the straps were adequately placed, I attached the backpack. Initially, I didn't know if I wanted to add the little fur on his cheeks, but I thought the face was looking a little plain, so I decided to add them and I really liked how they looked. Now I attach his little arms and place the burger in between them before attaching his cute tail. I added a band-aid on his leg and a bandage on his left upper arm, which, same with the sesame seeds, I definitely should have done this after baking him for the first time, but I don't think they came out too bad. I start attaching his nose, poke little holes for his eyes, and add two little black dots inside said holes. This is one of the first times I think I was successful in adding eyes onto my pieces, which I was so happy about. I created his mouth a little agape so that it would look like he's about to take a bite of that deliciously infected burger, more on that later, and into the oven he goes. Once out of the oven and cooled, I added a bit more detail to his backpack and added some straps to his backpack straps to make it look a little bit more strappy. I added some ear indents off camera pre-bake and then filled them with some brown clay. Then he goes back into the oven for a final bake. I gave him a quick little sand just to buff out any nicks or bumps in his form, and while I do that, I wanted to give a little fun fact about Spiffo. According to the PZ Wiki, Spiffo originates from one of Indie Stone's first games, Oz. Created and added by, I'm going to butcher their name so I'm just going to add it here. Oz was originally going to feature all English creatures, but Spiffo was added after they wanted a Canadian character in there too. The raccoon was dubbed Mr. Spiffo, a temporary name that soon became permanent. So I somehow accidentally sanded off his zipper, but we're just gonna put that aside and finish the sanding. Once finished, I give my workspace a quick cleanup, accidentally vacuuming up the zipper in the process. I managed to rummage through the bits of dust and crisis averted. Let me just attach that real quick so it doesn't happen again. Okay, now it's time to move on to the painting. I started off by painting a small portion of his appendages and added lines to his tail. I added a creamy white to the tips of his ears and around his face. Some extra details to his backpack. A little tongue in his mouth, and some dark circles around his eyes for that classic raccoon look. I added his eyebrows and finished his paint job with a little bit of drool coming out of his mouth. Hey guys, so originally I was planning to end the project here, but after showing my creation to my partner, he was like, I think it would be super cute to have Spiffo sitting in his restaurant eating this burger. And I was like, yeah, that would be cute, but also I never made a diorama before. But as I said before on this channel, I do like to challenge myself and create things that I've never made before. Would I do this to myself? So judging by the title and thumbnail, you already know I ended up making the diorama. Just the thought of it was just too cute to pass up on the opportunity. So I did a little research into what spiffos actually look like, since I really couldn't remember while playing the game. Probably because I was afraid a zombie would jump me at any moment. After researching a little bit, I decided to make 2 chairs, a table, ketchup, mustard, fries, and a little weapon, the same that Spiffo has in this photo. This was my first attempt at making a diorama, so please be nice to me. To be honest, I really wasn't prepared for the materials that were needed, so I just kind of like found random stuff around my house to make it. I did not have any cardboard for some reason. I think we had just taken out the recycling, so if I do end up doing more of these in the future, I'll definitely, I try to be a little bit more prepared. With all that being said, let's hop straight into creating the restaurant. To make the chairs, I started by squishing a round ball and indenting it for the base, and made the legs before attaching the two. I had decided that I wanted to make these in stages so that the legs could support the seat of the chair and the top of the table. I made the seat by creating a rounded piece for the bottom and attaching another rounded piece of clay to the top to create the actual cushion. Then I moved on to the back of the chair, which I created by curving a rolled out piece of clay and attaching similar rolled out straight pieces to it. I then started on the table. I created the top of the table first by cutting off pieces of the flattened clay to make the sides, before making the base of the table the same way I made the chairs. I made some tiny ketchup and mustard bottles, some fries, and Spiffo's weapon of choice. While it shows me making those on the screen, I wanted to give a little bit of a theory in the lore for Project Zomboid. I mentioned earlier that the burger might be infected. Here's a little fun fact about the restaurant that I didn't know before researching for this video. There's a theory that Spiffo's restaurant could be tied to the Nox infection, which is the zombie infection that spurred the zombie outbreak in Project Zomboid. Spiffo's was founded in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is also where a flesh-eating bacteria outbreak occurred just 3 years before the outbreak of the Nox infection. Seems pretty suspicious if you ask me. Anyways, here's all of the pieces for the restaurant made and time to bake them in the oven. The weapon is missing because I forgot to make it at this point, but that was baked also. Once those were baked and cooled, I moved on to attaching all of the pieces with some unbaked clay and baked those once more. Once cooled again, I attached the backs of the chair and the nails in the weapon with super glue. I actually had to remake the chairs since I encountered a little problem. Let's move on to painting the pieces. I started by adding a cream color to the top of the table and gray to the table leg. I then added an orange border on the outer edges and sides of the table. I finished it off with a light gray highlight in the table leg to add a little shine, and covered it all in watered down brown acrylics to create a weathered look. I started with a cream yellow coat on my chairs on the base and the sides, before adding the same gray treatment to the legs as I did to the table, a dirty red color to the cushion. I added that same watered down brown wash to specific areas of the back and sides of the chair and all over the cushions and legs. I moved on to painting the little items, the ketchup and mustard bottles, fries, and his weapon. In hindsight, I probably should have created the mustard and fries in yellow clay, since painting this was definitely a challenge to say the least. It honestly just took way too many coats, and I think I could have avoided all of that if I just made it in yellow in the first place. That's all the furniture complete. Let's move on to our final step, which is creating the restaurant diorama. I'll start by painting the entire piece in this yellow cream color before cutting it down to size and adding some gray paint to create a weathered look. I should have used a sponge for this and watered it down way more, but I didn't have a sponge and it's supposed to look messy, so I deemed this good enough. I mixed some red paint with a little bit of brown to create a dirty red color to paint the base before making it even dirtier with some brown paint around the edges. I added some brown lines to create the illusion of the wood slats and added a tiny bit of that lighter dirty red to the center. The wood slats have an orange strip running along the top, so I began painting that with orange, then using a wash of brown paint, added the same treatment that I did to the wood. I attached all of the pieces to the wall before moving on to the floor. The floor of the restaurant is this bluey green color that I tried to get as close enough to the restaurant color. I don't think it matches exactly, but it's close enough. I then added lines to create the floor tiles. I added some darker shading around some of the corners of the tile, then I used a lighter version of that bluey green color to make some highlights on the tile. Now for some added decorative elements. In the restaurant, there's a sign on the wall with the spiffo logo. I traced the shape on the back of a scrap piece that I cut off the walls and added a muddied orange to the buns and tail, and brown to the center for the burger patty. I then added brown for the stripes on the tail, inside the ears, and white for the sesame seeds on the bun. To complete the sign, I added a white border around the entire shape. Lastly, I created a window. I started off with a light gray across the whole shape before adding a darker gray to create the window frame and gray streaks along the window to add a little bit of grime. The only thing left is to attach those to the wall, and with that, Spiffo and his restaurant are complete. So we're now at the end of the video, and just a little bit of a recap. This project was way more than I anticipated it to be. As I said before, I was only intending on creating Spiffo, and then it turned into creating a little diorama of his restaurant. I'm kind of glad that I challenged myself to do it, since I never made a diorama before. It definitely encourages me to make more in the future. It was actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I definitely have a lot more to learn when it comes to dioramas, but for my first time, I think I did a pretty good job. I'm not going to be too hard on myself. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I definitely enjoyed making this character. It's a character that I've wanted to make for quite a while. I'm definitely thinking of making more of these types of videos in the future, where it's a little bit more in-depth into one character or multiple characters. Of course, I'll still be making some of my other more vlog style videos, I guess you could say, where I take you through creating keychains, but I'm also thinking of creating more of these types of videos. So if you'd like to see more detailed characters from me, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment below if you've ever played Project Zomboid before. color and where your favorite place to start is. I think mine would be rosewood, mostly because that's the only place I've ever started, and I've heard that it's a fairly easy place to start. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!